if North Korea does anything in terms of even thinking about attack of anybody that we love or we represent or our allies or us, they can be very, very nervous. I'll tell you what, and they should be very nervous because things will happen to them like they never thought possible, okay? He's been pushing the world around for a long time, and I have great respect for what China and what Russia did and those 15, we got a 15-0 vote. I have great respect for China and Russia, what they did on sanctions. I believe that will have an effect. I don't think it will have the kind of effect, even though we were the ones that got it. And Nikki Haley did a great job. We all did a great job. But I have great respect for what they did. I have great respect for the 15-0, but probably it will not be as effective as a lot of people think it can be, unfortunately. The people of our country are safe. Our allies are safe. And I will tell you this, North Korea better get their act together or they're going to be in trouble like few nations ever have been in trouble in this world.
No word so far from North Korea on Saturday's missile launch, but the regime's state-run media has reported that Kim Jong-un oversaw a special forces exercise simulating an invasion of South Korean border islands. It took place on Friday, the day the regime celebrated its 57th anniversary of the Seongun, or military first ideology. The exercises included land, sea, and air units attacking a target, simulating the South Korean border islands of Baekneondo and Yeonpyeongdo. Kim is said to have been satisfied with the drills and called on the forces to be ready to occupy Seoul and South Korea in one go. North Korea did in fact shell Yeonpyeongdo in 2010, killing 4 South Koreans, which led to Seoul significantly increasing its military presence in the area.
North Korea has fired several short-range missiles into the sea off its east coast, according to the US military. South Korean officials said the missiles were launched from the northeastern Gangwon province and flew in a northeasterly direction about 250 kilometers into the sea. The US military said the missiles did not pose a threat to the US mainland or to the Pacific territory of Guam, which North Korea had threatened earlier this month to surround in a sea of fire. North Korean missile tests often come in response to South Korean military exercises involving the US. South Korean and US troops are currently taking part in joint military drills that involve computer simulations of war to test preparedness. The North routinely describes these as preparation for invasion.
But first, war games in Korea. For decades, the U.S. and South Korea have conducted military exercises, often involving tens of thousands of troops and massive firepower. The U.S. says they're designed to enhance readiness and maintain stability. The drills that started Monday and will continue into next week don't look particularly threatening, but some Korea watchers are calling them provocative. NewsHour special correspondent Nick Schifrin has this report.
As visuals go, this is as provocative as this month's U.S.-South Korea exercises get. 4 men with 15 stars in front of a Patriot missile defense system in South Korea.
We have had the responsibility of providing military options to our national leaders. And exercises are our way of making sure that the option is a ready option. It's a capable option.
General Vincent Brooks is the U.S.'s top commander in South Korea. He's leading exercises that are almost entirely computer simulations, as seen here in the 2013 version. It doesn't look like much, but the exercises allow the U.S. and South Korean militaries to test their communication in case of war.
Being in readiness to fight tonight if we have to is what we'll do.
But exercises the U.S. calls defensive, North Korea calls provocative. Today, state TV showed a smiling Kim Jong-un ordering the production of more rocket warheads and engines, and a not-so-subtle hint on the poster that North Korea is developing a new missile design. North Korea said the exercises were driving the peninsula to war and vowed to respond.
U.S. warmongers ignored our warning that they should act cautiously and instead made a dangerous military provocation. They will not be able to avoid merciless retaliation and unsparing punishment.
To say that these defensive deterrence exercises are the cause of North Korea's insecurity simply have it backwards.
Balbina Huang is a visiting Georgetown professor and former senior State Department advisor on North Korea. She points out in the last few years, the North Koreans have dramatically increased their missile tests and missile capacities, and it's those tests that make U.S. preparedness crucial.
It is very important for the UN forces, US and South Korea, to be able to maintain constantly modern, capable defense and deterrence. That is the purpose of the exercise.
But the U.S. and South Korea also conduct annual exercises with massive number of forces and massive amounts of live fire. These are held every spring, and when considered alongside this month's exercises, the U.S. should acknowledge North Korean anxieties are legitimate, argues Mansfield Foundation President Frank Januzzi.
Every time that we are practicing, whether it's field exercises or even a tabletop exercise, they get a little bit nervous about what we might do. They also worry about the capabilities that we're demonstrating, and in this particular exercise in the past, we have sometimes demonstrated a capability to launch a decapitation attack, attacking the North Korean leadership.
Januzzi participated in 2004 talks that froze and dismantled North Korea's nuclear program in exchange for economic assistance. He was a State Department and congressional North Korea policy analyst. He believes these exercises contribute to increased tensions and that the U.S. should change them to send a signal.
Deterrence can be bolstered without flexing our muscles with B-52 bombers or B-2 bombers, nuclear-capable strike aircraft that could annihilate North Korea. We don't necessarily need to practice those martial arts.
Over the last few weeks, some of the tension has cooled. Last night, President Trump even praised Kim Jong-un.
I believe he is starting to respect us. I respect that fact very much. Respect that fact. And maybe, probably not, but maybe something positive can come about.
And North Korea, despite fiery rhetoric, has indicated it doesn't want increased conflict.
All this talk and rhetoric about, shooting missiles and sea of fire and nuclear war, that's talk, but what were the actual actions? We do not see any particular increase in North Korean military readiness for war. We don't see any sort of major maneuvering that would indicate that North Korea is ready to launch any kind of major conventional or military strike.
A close reading of North Korea's statements has provided signals to the United States that in fact they are open to negotiations, they're willing to sit down and talk with us. We need to test them, and we need to explore what, if anything, is possible through those talks.
And those commanders leading this month's exercise, including Admiral Harry Harris, say they hope their readiness creates room for diplomacy.
Credible combat power should be in support of diplomacy and not the other way around.
So the U.S. exercises and the North Korean rhetoric will continue. But from all indications, both sides hope the preparations for war and the threats of war don't lead to war.
Stand together in the months and years ahead with the people of South Korea.
It's a crisis that has persisted for years. Two countries continually on the brink. And a war of words with the world's only superpower.
Things will happen to them like they never thought possible.
After the highly charged rhetoric of recent days between the US and North Korea, some of the smoke has cleared. But it's not over yet. Has this confrontation reached new, more dangerous levels? secretive, isolated country. Almost half the population lives under the poverty line, and there's a chronic shortage of food. Infrastructure is outdated. It's doubtful that North Korea could withstand an attack from the outside. But in this tightly controlled state, the threat of imminent war. Defiance against the West, particularly the US, has defined its foreign policy for 70 years, and clear signs it's not just bluster. North Korea has conducted 18 missile tests so far this year, perfecting the technology with each launch. And 5 nuclear tests over the last decade, each one more successful than the last. But perhaps the most concerning development for the US and its regional allies, unverified reports Kim Jong-un's regime has finally succeeded in miniaturizing a nuclear weapon that could fit onto a missile. For Pyongyang, its nuclear weapons program is key to its survival. They see the US, a nuclear power stationed across the border in South Korea, as a clear threat. But if North Korea's main goal is preservation, then attacking the US would be highly risky. Threatening to fire missiles towards Guam, the US territory, is the latest in its political brinkmanship. The crisis has been made worse now by a new unknown quantity, Donald Trump, and the world waits to see whether he'll back up his heated words with weapons of war. It's not clear if the long-term strategy with Pyongyang will be diplomacy, containment, or direct confrontation. For now, underneath the saber rattling, it seems, everyone is sticking to the status quo. But the danger is that even a small provocation could trigger a wider conflict. And the risks of a miscalculation from either side would end in disaster.